All right. So welcome. We are going to go through, or I'm going to go through these Unit 5 practice problems. So again, keep in mind to get full credit, you need to show all of your work on these problems and submit it for classwork credit. Feel free to rewind, rewatch, fast forward, whatever you need to do with this video, and message me if you have any questions. Let's get started. So here's our first problem, dealing with scatter plots. What's the independent and dependent variable? So remember, independent is your x variable, dependent is always your y. So if I look at my axes here, I can see that on my x-axis I have the number of pizzas. So the independent variable is the number of pizzas. And on my y-axis up here, it lists the amount in sales. So in other words, the amount of money that like the pizza shop makes. So the dependent variable is the amount in sales. And then it asks, what type of correlation does this scatter plot show? Is it linear? Is it positive, negative, strong, moderate, weak? So I can see this red line of best fit is kind of already drawn in here for me, but I can see that the pattern of the blue dots is linear. It does follow a straight line, and it's positive because from left to right it's going up in the upwards direction. And I would say the dots are pretty close to the line, but not super close, so it's probably moderate correlation. And remember, we said with correlation you need 3 words, whether or not it's linear, the strength, and the direction. Next one. So are the lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither? So remember, to answer this question, you need to think about the slopes. If they're parallel, the slopes are the same and the y-intercepts are different. If it's perpendicular, the slopes are opposite reciprocals. And remember, opposite reciprocal means like change the sign, so one should be positive, one should be negative, and you flip the fraction. And if it's neither of those two things, then we say the lines are neither parallel nor perpendicular. So let me look at this first equation here. Y is equal to 3x minus 8. So this is y equals mx plus b. I can just read the slope right off of that. This second equation here, this is not in y equals mx plus b form, so I'm going to have to solve for y. In order to get y by itself, I'm going to add 3x to both sides. I have y is equal to 3x minus 1. Now that I have this solved for y, I can read my slope off, and it's 3. So both of these have the same slope, so that tells me that they're parallel. And remember, on your test, we talked about this. I could ask you a question on the open-ended portion that says, are they parallel, perpendicular, or neither? And I could say, explain. You would have to say, they both have the same slope, which is 3, so therefore they're parallel. All right, next one. Write the equation of the line perpendicular to this line here and going through the point -6, 2. So the slope of this line is 3 over 4. So remember, we said a minute ago, perpendicular lines, their slopes are opposite reciprocals. So I need to take the fraction and flip it. Remember, this is my symbol for perpendicular slopes. I need to take the fraction and flip. So the 4 comes to the top, the 3 goes to the bottom, and I need to change the sign. So the slope in the equation was positive. My new slope has to be negative. And so you can use y equals mx plus b now, and you're going to plug in your slope, and you have this point x comma y. So we're going to plug in 2 for y equals, my slope is -4 over 3, my x is -6 plus b. And now I'm going to try and find b. In order to find b, I have to solve for b, so I have to multiply this -4 over 3 times -6. Use your calculator. A negative times negative is a positive. And 4 over 3 times 6 is positive 8 plus b. Now I'm going to solve for b. I'm going to subtract 8. This is negative 6 is equal to b. Now I have my b, but really they're asking me to write an equation. So I need to pull it all together. My final equation, y equals negative 4 over 3x minus 6. There's my final answer. Next one, word problems. Amanda's trying to get as many followers on Twitter as she can. After 1 week, she has 200 followers. After 6 weeks, she has 1,000 followers. So write an equation that models the situation. Remember, you need to define your variables first. So in this case, I'm going to tell you we're going to use point slope 4. Y minus y1 equals x minus x1. And our two variables are the things that are changing or that we don't know. The things that are changing are the number of weeks and also the number of followers. So in this case, the number of weeks is going to affect the number of followers. So x is our independent variable, y is our dependent variable. And then I look at the information that I'm given. After 1 week, she has 200 followers. So I can write that as a point. 1 week, 200 followers. And I can write it like that because remember, we defined x to be the number of weeks, y to be the number of followers. And then I also know that after 6 weeks, she has 1,000 followers. So now I have my 2 points, and now I need to write my equation. So I need to find my slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So in this case, this would be 1,000 minus 200 over 6 minus 1. So 1,000 minus 200 is 800. 6 minus 1 is 5. Use your calculator, plug that in, and I got that my slope is 160. Now I need to write the equation in point slope form. I can pick either one of these points, so really you could have had 2 correct answers. Either y minus 200 equals 160 times x minus 1, or you could have had y minus 1,000 equals 160 x minus 6. You did not have to have both. You could have had one or the other. There's your equation. Now, how many followers will she have after 12 weeks? So if I look at 12 weeks and I go back to where we defined our variables, x is the number of weeks. So this tells me that x is 12. So I'm going to pick either one of these equations. I'll just pick the top one. Y minus 200 equals 160 times x minus 1. I just rewrote the equation. And I'm going to plug in 12 for x. So this will be 12 minus 1. And now I'm just going to solve. So y minus 200 equals 160 times 12 minus 1 is 11. And then I multiply 160 times 11 and get 1,760. And then to solve for y, I can just add 200. And I get y is equal to 1,960. So to answer the question, remember you got to answer it in words. After 12 weeks, Amanda has 1,960 followers. Okay, next one. Writing equations of lines. So write the equation of a line parallel to this line that goes through this point, 9, 4. Remember, parallel lines have the same slope and have different y-intercepts. So the slope of this line here, y equals mx plus b, is 1/3. So I'm going to take that 1/3 and I'm going to take this point x comma y and I can plug in to y equals mx plus b. Really, you could also plug into y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Although I think most of you guys use the y equals mx plus b, so I'm going to go with that. So I'll put 4 here because you don't have to do both. You just pick one or the other. So my y value is 4. My m was 1/3. My x is 9. And remember, the whole point of this is that you're trying to find a different y-intercept. Parallel lines have different y-intercepts, so you don't want to use this 8. You need plus b. Now we're going to solve for b. Multiply 1/3 times 9, you get 3. Solve for b, and you get 1 is equal to b. So my equation is y is equal to 1/3 x plus 1. All right, next one. Write the equation of a line parallel. Another line parallel to y is equal to 3x minus 5. So my slope is 3. Here's my point, x comma y. This time I'm going to use y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And remember, the point, the numbers, they're like your x1, y1. So we said the slope is 3 because the slope of the line is 3 and we need parallel lines to have the same slopes. So I plug in y minus 1 equals m is 3, x minus negative 12. Remember, when we have minus and negative, that turns into plus a positive, right? So this is really like y minus 1 equals 3 times x plus 12. So that's your equation in point slope form. If you need to convert it to slope intercept form, you can distribute the 3. So 3x plus 36, and then solve for y, add the 1. So y is equal to 3x plus 37. All right. Next one, which shows a line of S fit. So remember, a line of S fit kind of goes through the middle of the points. So these are all the same scatter plots if you look closely, just the lines all look a little bit different. You want the line that goes through the middle of the points. This line in letter A is totally going in like the opposite direction. The points have a negative correlation. They're going down from left to right. This one in B, this line, the slope looks okay, but it kind of goes on top of all the points. So it's actually going to be letter C here. Letter C is the correct answer because the line is just going right through the middle of all the points. Write the equation of a line perpendicular to y is equal to 2x plus 10 and going through the point, I wanted this to be, 0, 9. So first we need to find the slope. And the slope of this line is 2. So remember, perpendicular slopes are opposite reciprocals. So my perpendicular slope, I have to make this like 2/1, flip the fraction, make it 1/2, and change the sign. It was positive to begin with, so I need to make it negative. And now I can use y equals mx plus b if I wanted to. Here's my x, here's my y. Remember, we changed that to 0, 9. So the y value is 9. The m is negative 1/2. The x is 0 plus b. solve for b. 0 times negative a half, that's just 0. And so 0 plus b is just b. So b is equal to 9. And guys, remember, we talked about this a couple times. We could have recognized from the beginning that anytime you have a point 0 comma something, that is your b. That's your y-intercept. So your final answer, y equals negative 1/2 x plus 9. Okay, next one. Write the slope of the line and a point on the line. So this equation is point slope form. So point slope form, y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Okay? So the slope is probably the easiest part to pull out of here. The slope is going to be negative 8. But now, remember we talked a lot about in this formula, it's y minus y1 and x minus x1. So in order to get this to be an x plus 3, in the formula it had to be a negative 3. So the x1 value was a negative 3. Remember we talked about the formula, because there's a negative here, it switches the sign. And the y value is a negative 9 as well, because this is y plus 9. And you can check to make sure that you got the right answer. So here's my answer. Here's the slope and here's the point. But you could check by plugging in. So y minus negative 9 equals negative 8 x minus negative 3. Right? Minus a negative becomes y plus 9 equals negative 8 x plus 3, which that was the original equation. So that's how we can just kind of double check to make sure we got the right signs. All right, another word problem. So this one, you're going to write the equation in the form y equals mx plus b. You need to take driver's education courses before you can get your license. It costs $15 for the initial meeting with the instructor, and then $40 an hour for each driving lesson. So the two variables, remember, something that could change or something that we don't know. We need to figure out how many hours we take lessons for. So the number of hours, that could change, or that's something that we don't know. And also the total cost of all the lessons. Again, think about independent versus dependent variable. The number of hours is going to affect the total cost. And remember, we said when we use y equals mx plus b, we're looking for like per each every, we're looking for the slope. So it tells me here that they charge me $40 an hour for each driving lesson. So that's going to be my slope. And then B is the initial cost, or the starting value, the starting amount. The initial meeting is $15. That's going to be my B. So I put those things together. Y is equal to 40x plus 15. There's my equation. Now, it says your insurance company requires that you complete 6 hours of instruction behind the wheel. How much will this cost you? So 40 equals, oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So 6 hours of instruction. If I look at how I define my variables, 6 hours, the number of hours is x. So in other words, they're saying that x is 6. You got to take your x is 6 and plug it in to the equation. And then to solve for y, you're going to multiply 40 times 6. You get 240. And then we're going to add 15 to that. So 255. And remember, you got to answer the question. So to do 6 hours, it will cost $255. All right, next one. So a scatter plot. The scatter plot below shows the average traffic volume and the average vehicle speed on a certain freeway for 50 days in 2010. Which statement best describes the relationship between average traffic volume and average vehicle speed? So if I look at the pattern here, if I look at this pattern, it kind of goes like in this direction, right? So this is telling me, because it's going down from left to right, it's going like this. So as I go from left to right, or in other words, as the average traffic volume gets bigger, the average vehicle speed goes down. So as the average traffic volume increases, the vehicle speed decreases. Okay, find the slope of the line perpendicular to that. Remember perpendicular slopes? The slopes are opposite reciprocals. So the slope here is 3 over 2. I need to flip the fraction, make it 2 over 3, and change the sign. It was positive, so I need to make it negative. So my perpendicular slope would be, that looks a little ugly, but my perpendicular slope would be negative 2/3. Okay, another word problem. So Paul opens his savings account with $350. He saves $150 per month. So you're going to use y equals mx plus b again for this one. Write an equation that models the situation. First, you need to think about the variables. What could change here? In this case, the number of months could change, and also the amount of money in the account. And think about, again, which one's like independent, which one's dependent, which one affects the other. The number of months is going to affect how much money he has. So he saves $150 per month, and he opens the account with $350. Remember, y equals mx plus b, the starting value is your b. So he starts with $350, and the word per, each, and every, that gives you the slope. So your equation, I just put that all together, there's my equation. After how many months will Paul have more than $2,000? So $2,000, go back and look at how we defined our variables. That's not the number of months, that's the amount of money, right? So we're going to plug in 2,000 for y, and then we're going to solve for x. So in order to solve this equation for x, we're going to subtract 350 from both sides, and we get 1,650 is equal to 150x. And we're going to then divide both sides by 150, and I got that x is equal to 11. So again, answer the question. He has more than $2,000 after 11 months. Okay, write the equation of the line parallel to y is equal to negative 1/2 x plus 7. And then it has to go through the point -2, comma -2. So parallel. Remember, same slope, different y-intercept. So my slope I circled up here is negative 1/2. My y-intercept is not 7, it has to be different. So remember, here's like my x, comma y. And we can plug all this stuff into y equals mx plus b. So the y value from the point was -2. The m that I got that from the equation was negative 1/2. The x from the point was -2 as well. And remember, the whole point is that we're finding a new b. So now solve for b. -2 equals, use your calculator, -1/2 times -2 is positive 1. Now solve for b. b is equal to -3. So my equation y is equal to negative 1/2 x minus 3. Back to some scatter plots. So identify which scatter plots have a linear correlation, and if it is linear, identify if it's positive or negative. So remember, linear correlation is if like the line or the relationship is linear. So first we're going to take a minute and draw the line through the middle of the points. So that line goes through the middle of the points, right? And it's pretty straight. So I would say that this is linear. And is it positive or negative? Because it's going downwards from left to right. When I drew this from left to right, I went in the downwards direction. This is negative. Letter B, the points are kind of all over the place. They're randomly scattered. I don't really know which way to draw my line. So remember, we say that this is like weak, or you could say no correlation. Letter C, these are all on like a really straight, or I'm sorry, a really perfect relationship. Like I could draw one line through all those points, but it's not a straight line. So this is what we call non-linear. Letter D, again, there's a strong pattern. There's a line that can definitely go through all the points, but it's a curved line, so it's not linear. And then E, if I think about the line that goes through the middle, it kind of looks like that. And it's pretty straight. And from left to right, when I drew that line, I was going upwards in the upward direction. So it's linear and it's positive. All right, are the lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither? So remember, we got to identify the slopes. So the slope of this line, negative 3 over 2. The slope of this line, positive 2 over 3. They're not the same. If they were the same, they'd be parallel. But if I look, I can flip the fraction and change the sign. One of them's negative, one's positive, and the fractions are flipped. So because these are what we call opposite reciprocals, we can say that they're perpendicular. And again, remember on a test, I can say, are they parallel, perpendicular, or neither, and tell me why. So you would say they're perpendicular because the slopes are opposite reciprocals. Okay, write the equation of a line in point slope form that has slope 5 and goes through the point 2 comma negative 3. So n equals 5 and it goes through this point, x1 comma y1. Point slope form is this. So we're just going to plug in. So y minus negative 3 equals m, which is 5, x minus x1, which is 2. But we got to simplify. I can't have a minus a negative. So this becomes y plus 3 equals 5x minus 2. There's my equation in point slope form. Another one, are the lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither? So I need to find the slopes. This one's real easy. This is y equals mx plus b. So my slope is negative 5 over 2. But this second equation here, I got to solve for y. I got to get y by itself. I got to add 5x to both sides. And then I have 2y is equal to, these are not like terms, so I keep it like 5x plus 20. And then to get y by itself, I'm going to divide both sides, divide everything by 2. And I have y is equal to 5 over 2x plus 4. Now I just need the slope. So the slope of this line is n is equal to 5 over 2. Now here's my two slopes. Negative 5 over 2 and positive 5 over 2. They're not the same, but they're also not opposite reciprocals. So we're going to say that these are neither parallel nor perpendicular because the slopes are not the same and they're also not opposite reciprocals. Okay, last problem. Another word problem. A fruit stand charges $4 for a bunch of bananas and $6 for a bag of grapes. In total, they sell $120 worth of fruit. So we want to write an equation. So what could change, or what do we not know? We don't know the number of bunches of bananas that they sell. We also don't know the number of bags of grapes that they sell. And both of those things are going to affect the total amount of money that they make. They give you that total, so because we're using AX plus B equals C, that's our C. That's our dependent variable. And that means that these are both independent, and it really doesn't matter which one you call X and Y. So to write my equation, if X is the number of bunches of bananas, I know that they charge $4 for each bunch of bananas. And they also charge $6 for each bag of grapes, so 6 times Y. And that should be equal to how much total they make, which is $120. So there's your equation. So in part B, if the stand sells 10 bags of grapes, so if the stand sells 10 bags of grapes, look at how you define your variables. Y we use to represent the number of bags of grapes. So it's 4x plus 6. You plug in this 10 for Y. So times 10 is equal to 120. And then we solve for X. So this is 6 times 10, which is 60. And then solve for X, subtract 60 from both sides. We have 4x is equal to 60. And then we go to divide both sides by 4, and you get x is equal to 15. So how many bunches of bananas did they sell? They sold 15 bunches of bananas. That's it. All right, guys, that's it for today. Please message me if you have any questions. Thanks so much.